Welcome to Airborne for Friday, July 27th from AirVenture 2018 at Whitman Regional Airport. I'm Laura Hudson. On our program for today, Avilution shakes up the avionics status quo. Lancair has another new bird. And Senator Jim Inhofe comments at Oshkosh. Those stories and more are coming up on this AirVenture 2018 special edition of Airborne Unlimited. An interesting company by the name of Avilution is shaking up the status quo in the avionics world, determined to find new solutions to age-old problems. Avilution has a decidedly different take on how we should build, equip, and operate our instrumentation. They are true electronic innovators.
So this is a panel we just did for Oshkosh this year, and we did this actually in about a week and a half before we left. This is designed to fit in a Panther aircraft, which is an LSA, and it only has a 28-inch wide cockpit. So normally it would be difficult to fit a good-sized display in there. What you'll see here is actually a 19-inch wide display that almost completely fills the panel. And our focus on this was not about jamming more information into a display, but about making everything very big and easy to read. So here we've got the display configured with a moving map on the left and buttons on the left, since the throttle would be on the left and you would fly with your right hand. We have a traditional glass style PFD in the center and engine instruments on the right. But the magic of what we've been working on with XFS is that this is the same application running on all these displays, and it's just the configuration that makes them different. And we've created a web-based configuration tool that can be used to reconfigure these panels. So this is the current configuration of the glass display. You can see that we can select various elements here, like the altitude or the vertical speed or even engine gauges. We could move and resize them. Or we can go in a completely different direction, and we could pick, for example, a version of this that is done entirely with round dials. We could even add our own additional instruments, but let's say we might want to pick this airspeed indicator. We might want to make it bigger, we might want to make it smaller, and we're going to make this a much bigger airspeed indicator. I know this looks really funky, so as soon as I hit save and build, it'll now build the configuration. You would normally put this on the USB stick, but for purposes of our demo, we have it automatically load. And now if you walk over to this panel, you'll see that we now have our giant airspeed indicator that we just configured on the other side. So just like in an old school round dial airplane where you could put together the panel to look exactly the way you wanted, we now have the ability to design your own panel in glass and actually update it more or less in real time.
The legendary Lancair company has been through a number of owners and quite a few airplanes. But the latest owners of the speedy little company are making big upgrades, and one of them is a new airplane. Check out the new Lancair BARRACUDA.
The Lancair BARRACUDA is a new product based on the Lancair legacy. And what we've done is we've packaged the airframe with the engine, the propeller, and all the avionics, all the parts, everything that you'll need to complete the aircraft for $200,000. So 2 people, 200 knots, $200,000. From that point, obviously you have to build it. You can build it at home in your garage, like many Lancair builders in the past, or you can utilize our build center for build down in Uvalde, Texas. Guessing it's going to be around a $60,000 build, although we don't have final pricing on that. So for $260,000, you have a complete aircraft. It's wonderful performance, wonderful economics, and it makes a lot of sense. The retractable nose gear system is the exact same as we have on the Mako, and it has a computer-based automated logic that runs off of 5 sensors. There's a nose gear pressure switch, GPS airspeed, GPS altitude, flap position, and throttle position. And in the takeoff, when those conditions are met, the gear automatically retracts. And in the landing, when you come down below 2,000 feet, below 130 knots, and put in your first notch of flaps, with the throttle pulled back, the gear automatically comes down. You always have total control over the gear. There's a button, and at any point, you could touch that button and the gear will lower. And you can also raise the gear at any point as well. The Barracuda will be available as early next year. This aircraft will be built and flying and tested in the next 2 months. Once we're happy with the design and we go through our engineering on the one-piece wing, we'll make an announcement and we'll start building for our first customers. I believe we already have several customers with deposits, and we're looking to take more. A $1,000 deposit here at Oshkosh gets you guaranteed pricing. It won't go up from this, and we're going to accept 10 of those deposits. And then we'll come out with final pricing at the end of the year and begin building.
Pilot and Senator Jim Inhofe comes to Oshkosh each year and usually spends a bit of time with A&N discussing the world of politics and how aviation can survive it all. This year was no exception, and we're pleased to present excerpts of this year's interview at AirVenture 2018.
Let's talk first about something near and dear to your heart that we talked about a few moments ago. You were the person who pushed and built the Pilot's Bill of Rights. You've been through 2 iterations, and God help us, there's a 3rd coming.
Yeah, there is. And, you know, having been the only active commercial pilot in the United States Senate, I've gotten a lot of people come to me with things happening to them in the field. Until it happened to me, I didn't really take it all that seriously. So that's what started the Pilot's Bill of Rights. 1, it worked very well. We have some improvements on it. And 2, I have number 3 coming up. But one of the things we have that I'd like to promote this for tomorrow, Saturday, at 10 o'clock. We're going to have an event in tent number 6 of the exhibit area. And we have hundreds of people there, so try to get there on time, 10 o'clock. And I'm going to have not just me, but we'll also have the president of AOPA, EAA, and a lot of other people there. And what we do with this particular event is talk about the new things that we're doing right now, and then we open it up to questions. And quite frankly, Jim, that's where we get the ideas for what we want to do legislatively next year. And so that's why it's important. I hope people will show up. But the thing I do want to talk about, because it is significant, is in the Pilot's Bill of Rights and in the FAA reauthorization. Now that has to be signed, and it will be signed into law by the end of September, because that's when the old one expires. We've already passed it out of our committee in the Senate. The House has already passed it. And I put all of the general aviation provisions on that. We'll be talking about those provisions, but one is what we call the SARA Act, which stands for Security and Revitalization Act. The first thing that I always like to talk about is right now the DPEs are restricted from giving check rides except in their geographic area. Now we've taken that provision away, so they can do it anywhere they want to do it. Secondly, they're restricted to 2 check rides a day. Well, look. We all know they could do 4 or 5 without any problem at all, but they can't legally do it. So we're taking that restriction away. The second thing we're doing is the youth program. Now, what we're doing with this provision of the SARA bill is allow and provide that schools can even have ground school and high school, and to get people not just for the flying part, but become mechanics, choosing a career. That's the time that they do it. The third thing, we remember when the FAA came along and they said to EAA, we're going to charge you $600,000 because of all the extra work that we have to do. So while we got a reprieve for a period of a year, it will be a permanent provision that they're not going to be charging EAA for it. The fourth thing is the Voluntary Pilot Protection Act. I can remember going all the way down to South America after a storm to help people out, deliver food and all that. But if you can't be exempt from a liability or some kind of an accusation, people are not willing to do it. So that provision is the Good Samaritan Act. That's what it is. So all 4 of those things are in the in that bill.
After the break, John and Martha King, who have helped shape the course of the flight training world, talk about the future of learning to fly. You're watching Airborne Unlimited from Aero-TV.
My flight final program.
Continental Motors Group. Manned and unmanned, Continental has been a pivotal part of aviation and aerospace history and wants to be a part of your mission. Gas or diesel, certified or experimental, Continental is investing in your future. www.continentalmotors.aero.
Free Flight Systems designs, manufactures, sells, and supports avionics systems that improve the safety, efficiency, and affordability of flying. For general aviation, the Ranger by Free Flight is a flexible, cost-effective suite of ADS-B solutions that can equip virtually any experimental, light sport, and certified piston engine aircraft. Size, weight, performance, and unmatched affordability make our Ranger systems ideal for all GA aircraft, providing both ADS-B compliance and enhanced in-flight situational awareness in a single-box solution. To learn more, visit us online at rangeravionics.com.
Trig Avionics is proud to announce the new 1.3-inch slimline TX56A and TX57A NAVCOM. Featuring a high-resolution display with the graphical CDI, configurable memory, 2-play stereo intercom, and a built-in VOR LOC converter. The TX56A will enhance your navigation and communication through all phases of flight.
Welcome back to Airborne Unlimited, coming to you this week from EAA AirVenture 2018 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. If you've seen something around Oshkosh that's really cool, let us know with the hashtag OSH18Cool on your social media posts. We never get tired of taking the opportunity to chat with John and Martha King, two of the flight training world's most persistent and prominent educators. This week we asked them about different aspects of the future of flight training, and we're intrigued by their answers.
Well, there are fewer people now who are learning to fly just because they want to fly. There are more people learning to fly because they want a career in aviation. But that's not all bad for the aviation community, because what's going to happen, a lot of people are coming in that pipeline, and some of them are going to say, well, you know, I don't really want to work for a big company. I don't want to be traveling all the time. So there's going to be a lot of these people who fall in love with flying, you get very, very excited about flying, and then kind of leave that track and become part of the general aviation community. So we don't have the same entrance into the general aviation community we used to have, but we're still having a lot of people come into the community.
I think that the whole drone surge is going to have a positive impact on the general aviation community, because we know anecdotally of a number of people who started with drones and then went into commercial drones, and in the process got much more acquainted with airports and airport environments and aircraft, and they had to study the airspace and the weather and so on to get their Part 107 certificates, remote pilot certificates, and in the process just fell in love with airplanes, period, in all forms of aviation, and have gone on and gotten their private pilot certificates and are working on higher certificates. That's anecdotal at this point, but I think we're going to see that is a whole new pathway for people coming into aviation. You know, a radio-controlled model aircraft has always been a pathway to get people excited about aviation. John got started that way. We know a lot of people who got started that way. You may have gotten started that way. And this is a much more expansive in volume way to pull people in.
AmSafe, the people who turn the concept of basic aircraft seatbelts from simple restraint systems into a far more capable safety system, have received some coveted paperwork from the FAA. ANN was there to see what AmSafe, another true innovator, has accomplished.
We were very excited to be here at EAA and launch the SOAR system to the world and small aircraft community. We were handed a certificate, or STC rather, for a list of 541 different aircraft models that can receive our developed airbag system. So we have a pilot, co-pilot system we've developed that are generically applicable to all of those aircraft. It wouldn't have been possible prior to the 64 rewrite of Part 23, but as a result of the rewrite and close coordination with our Anchorage ACO, we were able to, in less than a year, go through the certification process, testing and such, to get the STC issued.
Well, it's almost an airplane, and it will be flying soon. The EAA One Week Wonder program has had the better part of a week to get an RV-12IS kit aircraft nearly ready to fly, and we thought we should take a look and offer you a progress report.
So we see the fuselage behind me at the moment, and you can just see the engine is on. That's the Rotax 912IS engine. It's a 100 horsepower engine, fuel injected. On there, lots of progress going on. Tail section is coming together. As you can see, the public are out there already riveting the wing, and soon we're going to put all that together, and that will be the joy of One Week Wonder 2018.
We were kind of mystified that space and time wasn't provided for Pipistrel Aircraft, manufacturer of not one but two production electric airplanes, to fly in the major displays during the fly-in. But A&N has exclusive footage of a Pipistrel Alpha Electro, mixing it up with all the regular sport planes and the light plane pattern on a gusty but beautiful Oshkosh day. It flew well, and signals serious potential for aviation's future. After the break, the final segment in our 5-part interview with EAA boss Jack Pelton. You're watching Airborne Unlimited on Aero-TV.
The dream is real, a truly affordable personal jet aircraft. The Subsonics Personal Jet Kit is priced at only $42,000. Kit plus engine is still under $100K. Add instruments, upholstery, and paint and you're flying. It's time to put your money where your bucket list is. Learn more at sonicsaircraft.com.
Based on the popular Sling 2 LSA, the Sling 4 was designed to be the most practical and desirable lightweight 4-place experimental aircraft on the market. Find out more about this 115 horsepower turbocharged airplane at airplanefactory.com.
Progressive Aerodyne's Sea-Ray Elite offers turbocharged Rotax power and Garmin G3X Touch Avionics. Incredibly well equipped, you can fly away in this best-in-category amphib for less than $170,000. Visit searay.com for more details.
Welcome back to Airborne Unlimited on Aero-TV. Coming to you this week from AirVenture 2018 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. In this final segment of our comprehensive interview, Jack and Jim discuss the health of AirVenture and EAA as a business, and discuss what it's going to take to keep this coveted event a part of the aviation landscape far into the future.
How is the health of Oshkosh as a business, of the community that comes here, that launches their year or builds their year around what starts and ends at each AirVenture?
You know, it's, first of all, our membership is extremely strong and continues to grow at a very nice year-over-year pace for people who feel we must provide some value in aviation. As far as the event itself, you know, we still have about 30% turnover every year of exhibitors, and they continue to get replaced. And I think part of that is trying to figure out a way to get rid of all the things you just mentioned, because the cost, the difficulty, the housing, the ways to make it affordable on just an average income is tough. But also for our exhibitors, it's really tough because you're 9 or 10 days here and you're basically shutting down your shop back home in order to do that. So one of the things that they keep telling us is if you're providing us customers and visibility of our products, it makes it work, because the last many years they've done real well. But we keep working internally on how do you solve for the other issues. You know, do we at some point acquire land and start creating villages of places that the exhibitors can come and camp and make that the whole experience a notch below trying to drive in from Green Bay or find a as low a cost place as they can stay in Appleton, which is more than what you would pay 51 weeks out a year. So we get that and we understand that, and having been on the other side, I'm really sensitive to it and try to remind everybody here that your space you're renting them is one thing, but the overall cost for them to be here is enormous, and you've got to make the experience great for them. You got to make this, they need to have a reason to be here, and that's what we owe them.
The rest of the aviation world, outside of the normal sport and general aviation regimes that are associated mostly with the AA, but the commercial aspect and the military aspect, have come to recognize AirVenture as a center point for display, for showing the public who and what they are. At what point will we see Oshkosh emerge as the equivalent or even greater than, you know, the top shows, the Paris, the Farnborough, and so forth? Do you think that's going to happen?
I think we already are. I really do. When you step back in Oshkosh, the Boeings and some of those companies are here, they're here for a different reason. They're not here to sell business jets or sell commercial airlines. They're really here to showcase that their companies are innovative, imaginative companies that as a young person, if you want to get into aviation and you're not a pilot, that's really why they're here, and that's why you're seeing that from these other groups. Our trick will be, as you mentioned earlier, we need to preserve the grassroots culture amongst all of these other, I'll call them side agendas of people who are trying to recruit, people who are trying to not sell so much, but try to promote and recruit and be here because they know anyone with an aviation interest is in Oshkosh for 1 week. And boy, if I'm a company and I want to hire engineers, and most of the people here have got some interest, or if I want to hire marketing people that understand aviation. So I think we are something that this country has only got in one place. I mean, and I'm not trying to be, this is Paul's thing that he's done. It's not, I'm just trying to steward it for continuing to go forward. But this is a really special for the entire industry and all aspects of the industry right here for 1 week. It's preservation of the home-built movement, which is starting to exceed the Part 23 movement, so there's innovation stuff there, and there's everything in aviation from warbirds to ultralights, which I can't get enough of it.
What's the message that you want to share with everybody about what EA has accomplished, what you're trying to do with AirVenture this year, and what they need to keep an eye out for in the future?
I think probably the biggest message is that, you know, while we've done an excellent job on advocacy and pushing back the threats, that we're really working hard this year on how do we get better breadth and depth in programs for young people to get them interested in aviation, which is really in our mission, and really engage the chapter network at a higher level to get that out in the communities that people live in, so that general aviation can continue to thrive and reinvent itself through what you'll see in the innovation areas. So it's an exciting time. I mean, I feel a lot better sitting here today about what things look like in the next 5 years than I did probably 3 years ago.
Well, that's our program for today. As we wrap up the week from AirVenture, we'll be taking a couple days off to get home from Wisconsin, get situated, and get some much needed rest. We'll see you July 31st with Airborne Unmanned. We look forward to seeing you then. I'm Laura Hudson, and you've been watching Airborne Unlimited on Aero-TV.